Qiuyuan has been out for a couple of days at this point, and I think now I'm able to form a pretty good opinion of his current standing in the meta. So first I want to talk about his performance in Tower of Adversity, then about his performance in Whimpering Wastes, and then finally I'm going to talk about the points I made in my pros and cons video, and I'm going to see if I was right about him or not. Starting with his performance in Tower. And honestly, I feel like I don't have much to say in this regard. He does kinda just perform as expected. He is the best in slot with Galbrenna, and I made sure to test Qiuyuan and Galbrenna in places where, well, Galbrenna isn't being majorly shielded, because as we probably know, the current tower floor 3 and 4 are massive Galbrenna glaze, so I decided to test her in the earlier floors instead. This wasn't exactly ideal either, because, I'm gonna be honest here, Hecate is the worst. But I gotta pick between two evils here, and I decided to pick the one that paints Galbrenna and Qiuyuan in a more negative light as compared to a more positive light. But that aside, Qiuyuan did perform well with Galbrenna, as expected. That's kinda like the point. I also tested Qiuyuan with Frolova, because that is one of the things that I was most interested in when it came to Qiuyuan. How good is he with Frolova? And to be honest, I don't know if it was because I didn't have Cancerella on the account I was testing on, or if it was just how the synergy ends up working. Qiuyuan didn't feel super impactful for Frolova, and part of that is because I had a misconception about Qiuyuan's kit. I believe that his ultimate and forte buffs would apply to Frolova even if she was off the field, but this ended up not being the case. So I guess you could say I did spread misinformation, which, my bad, but it's still a good synergy, and I still think that Qiuyuan is going to end up becoming a best-in-slot character for your Frolova. So ultimately, we have a character that is best in slot in two teams, but doesn't feel super impactful for either of them. This does assume that you have Mono Fusion for Galbrenna, which a lot of people won't. So if you don't have a Mono Fusion team for your Galbrenna, Qiuyuan is going to end up being a worthy pickup for you. For Frolova, I really can't say for sure. He is best in slot, but I wasn't able to really compare the new team compared to the old team. So I'm primarily basing this off of calculations, in which Qiuyuan does perform quite a good bit better. But that's based purely on cheats, which are not all that the game is about, so take that one with a grain of salt. There are some gameplay related things I wanted to talk about, primarily being that in Tower it feels like I just don't have his ult a lot of the time. Now granted, he doesn't absolutely need it for his Concerto, which is interesting, but his ultimate feels incredibly instrumental, especially due to it giving a crit damage buff, so him needing a ton of energy regen is kind of annoying to build around. This issue wasn't really noticed in Whimpering Wastes, however. One other thing that I feel like I should talk about is that a lot of people are complaining that his heavy attack is incredibly easy to interrupt. I don't know what you guys are doing, I've just been holding down the button, and I only got interrupted a single time within Whimpering Wastes. In my time playing him, I didn't get interrupted in Tower even a single time during his heavy attacks. So I don't know what you guys are doing, but this is not an issue I've noticed. Speaking of Whimpering Wastes, however, that's going to be the next point. And I think Whimpering Wastes is a bit more interesting to talk about. As we all know, Frolova is kind of the queen in this game mode, and I think Qiuyuan just kinda exacerbates that even harder. We have the mother of all havoc resistant Whimpering Wastes, just because Kuro knows how strong Frolova is. But even in a Donjin Qiuyuan team, fighting incredibly havoc resistant enemies, she's still getting comfortable 3k. Because of course she is. I actually made quite a large amount of mistakes during my run as well. So yeah, that score can very easily improve. I believe I wasn't even using the right token. So let's be completely honest here, we can very easily say that I could easily have gotten 3500 if not 4000 on that team. Qiuyuan just kinda makes Frolova even better. But honestly, that's kind of the weird part of his value in Whimpering Wastes. He is good for Frolova, but my problem is more so, do you really need him for Frolova? Cause I feel like you don't. Frolova is already so strong within the game mode that getting a Qiuyuan just feels incredibly unnecessary. Now, is this going to stay true forever? No, definitely not forever, but if it doesn't stay true for at least another year, I'm going to be very concerned about the game's direction. So if you want to make your Filova stronger in Whimpering Wastes, well, Qiuyuan is the way to do that. You gotta ask yourself if you really need to make your Filova stronger. And then for Galbrenna. Qiuyuan for Galbrenna feels kind of limited in Whimpering Wastes, because using Qiuyuan in your Galbrenna team kind of does the opposite of what you want to do in Whimpering Wastes. In this game mode, you really want every single one of your teammates to do a large amount of damage, or at least have your DPS do a large amount of damage even when they're off-field. Galbrenna doesn't do large off-field damage, so you kind of just want to have a sort of triple DPS comp, which she already had with Mono Fusion. However, Qiuyuan is more of a hypercarry buffer with low personal damage, so honestly, I'm not sure if he's going to end up being optimal for Galbrenna in Whimpering Wastes. It definitely feels like that whenever Echo Skill related tokens go away, you're really gonna end up just sticking to the Mono Fusion team comp and not really using Qiuyuan with Galbrenna much. So Qiuyuan's value in the game mode is being entirely carried by Filova's strength, and Filova is so strong that it feels like you don't really need a Qiuyuan, at least when it comes to Whimpering Wastes. This is, however, where you're gonna start feeling his interruption issue in my opinion, because I did actually get interrupted once, and that single interruption managed to break my rotation for another at least 5 seconds. Getting hit during his heavies is incredibly punishing, and while I don't think it should be happening much within tower, in Whimpering Wastes it can absolutely happen a lot, especially against enemies that do a lot of poise, like the Chasm Guardians. So in Whimpering Wastes, I can definitely understand if you're getting interrupted. However, to make up for this, you're not gonna have any energy issues with this guy in Whimpering Wastes. You're killing a ton of enemies, so you're getting a ton of extra energy. So he is sort of trading a weakness for a strength. He is losing his weakness in his energy regen needs, but he is gaining extra weakness because, well, there's a higher chance he's gonna be interrupted. But that's enough for Whimpering Wastes. It's time to talk about my pros and cons. I said he was going to be the best Echo buffer, which seems kind of obvious in retrospect. He's the only one. Cantarella isn't an Echo buffer, she just has Echo skill casts in her kit, but she doesn't buff Echoes. So obviously Qiuyuan is going to be the best Echo buffer because he's the only one who does it. I also said he's best in slot with Galbrenna and Filova, which is true. Being best in slot with 2 good characters does add quite a bit to your value. Speaking of value, the next point was that I believed he was going to be a bit of a dubious investment, because Echo skills are an incredibly premature archetype, and we have no idea where it's going to go. And this is something I'm not really able to give a good conclusion on yet, because, well, for this we need to be able to see where the game goes in the future, which we don't know, we're still living in the present, so I really can't comment on this. I also said that he wasn't going to be instrumental for Galbrenna, which I definitely still believe to be true. If you have a Mono Fusion team for her, that's going to be completely fine to use. But if you're rocking the more Teffy Shorekeeper team, then yeah, Qiuyuan is going to end up feeling like a pretty good upgrade. However, I do want to add something to this, being Filova. I wasn't able to properly test his value with Filova, but Filova's already a strong character on her own right with her current team, very similar to Galbrenna. I think that if you're trying to build a Filova team, getting Cantarella first is definitely a better idea, because while Qiuyuan is good, I feel a lot of his strengths really start to come out when you also have a Cantarella, because with Cantarella and Qiuyuan together, you're going to end up getting 10 enhanced Hecate attacks, but without Cantarella, you're still stuck at 7. And then for the final point, I said that Qiuyuan was going to have low personal damage, which, yep, can confirm, his personal damage is not that high. So if you wanted to see him do big nukes, yeah, I'm gonna advise getting some sequences. But that's just my opinion on Qiuyuan. Let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Additionally, if you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description. If you just want to see more of me, you can also check out my second channel, which is also linked in the description. But that's gonna be all from me. Peace.